Have you ever felt as if someone who passed away was still breathing near you, not in body, but in presence? That chill with no wind, the song that starts at the exact second longing hits, the familiar scent appearing in an empty hallway as if announcing a visitor. Maybe people told you it's just nostalgia, but what if it's communication? Today I invite you to walk through a space where emotion and evidence walk hand in hand, verifiable stories, subtle signs, and a practical way to perceive life after death as conscious continuity. I'm not asking for blind belief, I'm asking for awareness. Because when consciousness after death touches daily life, the heart understands long before the mind does.
Since childhood, he felt the world differently. While others saw coincidence, he noticed patterns, as if the universe whispered between breaths. He was that kind of child who, in silence, heard stories that didn't come from books, but from somewhere between the visible and the invisible. That sensitivity, which many call mediumship, first appeared as curiosity. Why do I know what someone will say before they say it? Slowly, curiosity became a bridge to something larger. Life after death, consciousness beyond the body, and the mystery of reincarnation that pulsed in every encounter. He later learned that not every gift arrives wrapped in golden ribbons. Some come disguised as discomfort. There were nights when he'd wake sensing presences. Not frightening, but familiar, as if someone long gone was trying to finish an interrupted story. At 15, he began writing down details of what he felt, later discovering that many belonged to people who had died. That's when he realized life after death wasn't a myth. It was the continuation of awareness itself, reaching out even when the body had said goodbye. Once walking through an old cemetery, he felt a shiver, not of fear, but of recognition. It was as if each tombstone held echoes of unfinished conversations. In that moment, he understood his sensitivity wasn't a curse, but a tool, a way to read the subtle language between worlds. The veil separating the living from the departed, he would say, isn't thick. It's a curtain gently moved by the breath of consciousness after death. People began to seek him out, grieving mothers, children longing for closure, friends hoping for a last goodbye. It was through them that he understood the purpose of his gift, not to predict, but to connect. It wasn't about the beyond, it was about the now, how consciousness after death reshapes the way we live. He became a translator between worlds, showing that dying is merely changing spiritual garments. He often said with a soft smile, "If death were the end, the universe would be a terrible storyteller." That line became his compass. To him, existence is an endless narrative, and reincarnation is simply the next chapter. Each soul carries echoes of the previous ones, weaving a tapestry that never unravels. And the deeper he studied, the more he realized life after death wasn't a religious idea. It was an expansion of awareness itself. When he speaks of evidence of consciousness after death, he doesn't mean sterile laboratory data. For him, evidence is what moves the heart while disarming the mind. The moment a mother hears a phrase only her son would say, a tiny detail that dissolves all doubt. He believes life after death doesn't announce itself with miracles, but through small alignments, meaningful coincidences, synchronicities that reveal continuity of the soul. To him, consciousness after death isn't a ghostly echo, but a luminous extension of what we truly are. He compares physical life to diving in the ocean. The body is the wetsuit, the spirit is the diver. When the suit wears out, the diver simply rises back to the surface, free, but still the same. So when someone asks if there's life after death, he smiles. Of course, you don't disappear, you just change depth. Proof of reincarnation and surviving consciousness, he says, isn't found in complex theories, but in traces left behind. Children recalling past lives, people describing places they've never been, dreams that later unfold in waking life. Evidence is everywhere, he insists. It's only a matter of attention. Those who dare to look begin to see that existence stretches far beyond the grave. Among the many experiences he's had, a few are so profound they left permanent marks. One involved a young woman named Laura, whose mother died suddenly. During a quiet session, he felt a gentle presence and heard a light laugh, like wind through leaves. Then he said, "She mentions a silver bracelet with a small engraved heart. It's in your pocket." Laura froze, pulling out that exact bracelet, her mother's last gift.
Another time, a skeptical man came determined to expose him. The medium smiled and said, "I see sunflowers, and I hear an old radio playing an Italian song."
There were many more. Names, hidden notes, childhood memories unknown to anyone else. These weren't vague guesses. They were detailed, verifiable, intimate. People wept, laughed, and left lighter. Life after death, they realized, wasn't faith. It was continuity. And every session convinced him further. Consciousness doesn't die. It shifts frequency. He often said that communication between worlds isn't supernatural. It's simply too natural for our noisy world to notice. While others chased scientific proof, he focused on human proof. The mother's tears turning to relief, the calm after a final message, the quiet gratitude that filled the room. Those, he said, were the real data points. To explain it simply, he used metaphors. The body is the screen. The soul is the movie. If the screen breaks, the movie continues, only unseen. The brain is the speaker. The sheet music exists elsewhere. When the speaker goes silent, the melody remains. Consciousness after death is that original file, never lost, only accessed differently. He described the spiritual realm as vibration, frequencies that match the inner state of each soul. A fearful death leads to confusion, a peaceful one to clarity. Reincarnation, then, is not punishment, but progression. Consciousness seeks the perfect environment to evolve, like water flowing where the vessel breaks. For him, understanding life after death means realizing nothing is lost, only transformed. When a person dies, their emotions, lessons, and intentions remain active. That's why souls meet again, resolve unfinished business, and heal across lifetimes. Reincarnation is simply the mechanism by which awareness keeps learning. He often says, understanding life after death isn't mysticism, it's lucidity. Once you know consciousness continues, everything changes. Hurry loses meaning, forgiveness becomes urgent, and every glance or touch feels sacred. Grief, while painful, becomes a form of love, still in motion, the heart learning a new language of connection. He teaches rituals of healing, not grand ones, but small gestures, lighting a candle, playing a song, writing a letter to the departed. Speak to them, he says, because they still hear. Love, he explains, is the Wi-Fi of the soul, the one signal that crosses all dimensions. He also loves saying, if life is a school, death is just graduation, and reincarnation is enrolling in the next class. That metaphor soothes instantly. It reminds people that bonds don't end, they mature. The love we give remains stored in the architecture of the universe. He often meets people broken by loss. To them, he offers a simple exercise. Close your eyes, imagine your loved one smiling and saying, I'm okay. Repeat it until peace appears. That's not fantasy, he says. That's resonance. Because if life after death is real, love never stops. It simply changes channels. One of the greatest gifts of understanding consciousness after death is freedom from fear. Once death stops being an enemy, life deepens. People begin to love more openly, forgive faster, take risks, and live with gratitude, because they realize nothing is truly lost.
When asked if it's possible to talk to the dead, he smiles. Yes, but not with your ears, with your heart. Reincarnation doesn't separate, it rearranges. Souls meet again in new roles, new bodies, new lessons. Sometimes, he says, the child you're raising was once the parent who raised you. It's coincidence, they say. Cold reading. He answers calmly. Coincidences don't come with names, dates, and private jokes. Consciousness after death doesn't demand blind faith, only honest observation. Some argue everything is in the brain. He agrees the brain is crucial, but as an antenna, not a transmitter. The antenna can break. The frequency keeps broadcasting. Others claim mediums research online. He counters with transparency. No names, sealed objects, third-party verification, scars described, childhood nicknames revealed, details that can't be Googled.
Why are the messages subtle? If real, why not obvious? Radios can't play orchestras on static. The world is noisy. Messages come through stillness. A song, a scent, a dream. And when skeptics ask, what if it's just comforting illusion? He replies, truth that heals, expands responsibility, and increases love is worth following. If believing in reincarnation makes someone kinder, braver, more ethical, that's not delusion, that's evolution. Now that you've walked through these stories and signs, maybe you see that life after death isn't distant. It breathes quietly between moments. Consciousness after death appears in dreams, memories that won't fade, sensations that make no sense to logic. The question is, what will you do with this awareness? Keep calling the invisible coincidence, or let it become part of your journey. Because once you understand that nothing is truly lost, that reincarnation is the soul's return to learning, you begin to live with purpose, courage, and presence. So ask yourself, who do you still need to forgive? Who deserves to hear, I love you before time changes shape again? The greatest proof of consciousness after death is realizing love never ends, and knowing that changes everything. Before you go, I invite you to keep walking with me. Here you'll find not just answers, but a deeper way of seeing the soul, existence, and the universe itself. Subscribe, activate the bell, and let this knowledge accompany you, even on the quiet days when silence feels loudest. Because learning never ends. It simply moves to another plane, just like life itself.